Kade pushed his mop across the polished floors of the Meridian Neural Academy, watching the bioluminescent cleaning solution eat away at another day's worth of privilege. The stuff cost more per liter than most people made in a week, but hey, when you're dealing with the intellectual elite's bodily fluids, apparently only the finest genetically engineered bacteria will do. He'd been invisible here for 3 years now. Just another part of the machinery that kept this monument to cognitive enhancement running smoothly. The students, kids whose parents paid more for a semester than Kade would see in a lifetime, barely registered his existence. Perfect. That's exactly how he liked it. Tonight felt different though. The academy's corridors hummed with a tension that made his neck itch. Or maybe that was just the tattoo acting up again. The damn thing had been more active lately, responding to the electromagnetic fields that saturated every inch of this place. Bio-ink wasn't supposed to do that. At least, not the legal kind. Another all-nighter, Kade. He looked up to see Jessa Chen, one of the few students who actually acknowledged his humanity. She was sprawled across 3 chairs in the common area, neural interface crown tilted sideways on her head like a drunk tiara. Her enhancement session had clearly gone long, her pupils were still dilated from the cognitive boosters. "Someone's got to clean up after you beautiful minds," he said, wringing out the mop with more force than necessary. "Besides, the floors don't polish themselves. Yet." She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "You ever wonder what we're really paying for here, Kade?" Now that was interesting. Rich kids having existential crises usually meant they discovered something their trust funds couldn't buy them. Like authenticity. Or a soul. "Enlightenment's expensive," he replied. "Always has been." "No, I mean," she sat up, suddenly more alert. "The enhancement programs. We're told they're augmenting our natural abilities, right? Expanding memory capacity, increasing processing speed, optimizing neural pathways." Kade kept mopping, but his attention sharpened. He'd heard this conversation before, in different lives, different contexts. It never ended well. But what if they're not just enhancing? Jessa continued. What if they're replacing? Before Kade could respond, she was gone, padding barefoot down the corridor toward the dormitories, leaving only the faint scent of ozone and neural lubricants behind. Enhancement sessions always left that smell. It reminded him of hospitals. And laboratories. And things he tried very hard not to remember. The academy fell quiet again, save for the omnipresent hum of the quantum processors buried deep beneath the building. Kade finished the common area and moved on to the advanced labs, where the real magic happened. This was where the second and third year students underwent their more intensive procedures. Neural mapping, memory threading, consciousness expansion, all the buzzwords that made rich parents feel better about paying to have their children's brains rewired. He was sterilizing the lab surfaces with UV light when it happened. The purple glow hit his reflection in the polished metal cabinet, and suddenly his neck was on fire, not with pain, but with light. The tattoo that he'd kept hidden for 3 years erupted in brilliant patterns across his skin, neural pathways and data streams flowing like living circuitry. Well. That's not standard issue body art. Kade spun around, his hand instinctively moving to cover his neck. Dr. Elena Vega stood in the doorway, her dark eyes fixed on the rapidly fading glow beneath his collar. She was new faculty, a neurotechnology specialist who'd arrived 6 months ago with impressive credentials and an unsettling habit of asking the right questions. "Just a tattoo," he said, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Reacts to certain wavelengths. Nothing special." She stepped into the lab, and Kade noticed she moved like someone who'd been trained to read people's micro-expressions. Military, maybe. Or intelligence. Either way, trouble. Bioluminescent ink responding to UVC sterilization frequencies, she mused, circling him slowly. That's not consumer-grade work. That's military specification. Specifically, it's the kind of bio-ink used by the Neural Warfare Division for their Memory Weavers program. The blood in Kade's veins turned to ice water. Nobody should know that name. The memory weavers had been classified above top secret, their existence known only to a handful of military brass and the scientists who'd created them. Scientists who were supposed to be dead. "I think you have me confused with someone else," he said, but even he could hear how unconvincing it sounded. Dr. Vega smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Do I? Because that tattoo isn't just decorative, is it? It's a neural backup system. A complete archive of your expertise encoded in synthetic DNA and biophotonic structures. The question is, what's a former memory weaver doing cleaning toilets at a neural enhancement academy?" Kade's hand moved to the emergency beacon hidden in his cleaning supplies. 3 years of carefully constructed invisibility were about to collapse, and he needed extraction. Now. But Vega held up a hand, stopping him mid-reach. "I'm not here to turn you in. I'm here because we have a problem. A big one. And I think you're the only person who can help me solve it." She gestured toward the neural enhancement chairs that dominated the lab. "Tell me, in your professional opinion, what do these machines actually do?" Against every instinct screaming at him to run, Kade found himself looking at the equipment with trained eyes. The neural interfaces, the memory threading apparatus, the consciousness mapping arrays, it all looked standard. Until he noticed the subtle modifications. The additional processors. The quantum entanglement chambers that had no business being in a civilian facility. "Oh, shit," he whispered, understanding flooding through him like poison. "They're not enhancing memories. They're harvesting them." "Bingo," Vega said grimly. "And they're using your research to do it. The techniques you developed for the Memory Weavers program? Someone's been very busy adapting them for commercial use. Every student who walks through those doors gets their memories copied, cataloged, and sold to the highest bidder." Kade stared at the machines, seeing them now for what they really were. Memory extraction and replication systems, dressed up as enhancement technology. His life's work, perverted into something monstrous. "The students don't know," he said. It wasn't a question. How could they? They think they're getting smarter, stronger, better. And they are, in a way. The machines give them enhanced capabilities while quietly making copies of everything that makes them who they are. Perfect crime, really. The victims pay for the privilege of being robbed. The weight of 3 years of willful blindness crashed down on him. All those bright, eager faces. All those kids who trusted this place with their futures, their identities, their souls. And he'd been mopping their floors while they were being systematically violated. "Who's behind it?" he asked, though part of him already knew the answer would make everything worse. "That's what I've been trying to figure out. But whoever it is, they have access to classified military research that should have died with the Memory Weavers program. Research that only a handful of people ever knew existed." She looked at him meaningfully, and Kade felt the walls of his carefully constructed new life crumbling around him. The janitor named Kade Morrison was about to disappear forever, and in his place would stand someone he tried very hard to forget. Someone with blood on his hands and knowledge that could reshape the human mind. Someone who might be the only person who could stop this before it got worse. "My name," he said quietly, "is Dr. Kade Thorne. And I used to be very good at getting inside people's heads." Dr. Vega's expression didn't change, but Kade caught the slight tension in her shoulders. Even she hadn't expected him to drop his cover so completely. "Dr. Kade Thorne," she repeated slowly. "The architect of Project Mindbridge. The man who taught machines to dream in human memories. You're supposed to be dead." Death seemed like the smart career move at the time, Kade said, setting down his mop with deliberate care. Especially after the Senate hearings. Amazing how quickly everyone forgets that the Memory Weavers program was designed to help soldiers process trauma, not turn them into programmable weapons. But that's what it became. That's what they made it become. The old anger flared in his chest, hot and familiar. I created therapeutic tools. They weaponized them. When I tried to blow the whistle, suddenly I was having accidents. Car crashes, gas leaks, food poisoning. The kind of accidents that happen to inconvenient scientists. Vega nodded grimly. So you faked your death and disappeared into the service industry. Creative. But why here? Why this academy? Kade gestured around the lab, at the machines humming with stolen purpose. Because I knew someone would eventually bastardize my work. I've been monitoring facilities like this for 3 years, waiting for the technology to surface. I just didn't expect it to be this sophisticated. Or this morally bankrupt. The question is, what do we do about it? Kade laughed, but there was no humor in it. Lady, I've been dead for 3 years. I clean floors and fix broken toilets. I don't do we anymore. Those kids upstairs trust this place with their minds, Vega said quietly. Jessa Chen, who you clearly care about despite your best efforts. Marcus Ray, the scholarship kid who's here because he believes education will save his family. Emma Nakamura, who's fighting depression and thinks cognitive enhancement will fix her broken brain chemistry. They're all having their memories harvested while they sleep. Each name hit like a physical blow. Kade had tried so hard not to get attached, but 3 years of shared late-night conversations and small kindnesses had worn down his defenses. These weren't just rich kids anymore. They were his kids, in a way that mattered more than he wanted to admit. And it gets worse, Vega continued. The memory harvesting isn't random. Someone's specifically targeting students with particular skill sets. Jessa's pattern recognition abilities, Marcus's mathematical intuition, Emma's emotional intelligence. They're building something. A composite consciousness made from stolen fragments of human genius. A hive mind, Kade whispered. They're creating a collective intelligence from the most gifted minds of a generation. With your techniques as the foundation. The irony is almost poetic, don't you think? Kade closed his eyes, feeling the weight of unintended consequences pressing down like a physical force. He'd spent years running from his past, but it had found him anyway, wrapped in the faces of kids who reminded him why he'd become a neuroscientist in the first place. To help people. To heal minds, not exploit them. Who's running the program? He asked. That's where it gets interesting. The funding comes through shell companies, but I've traced the real source. It's Meridian Dynamics. The same defense contractor that took over your research after you died. Harrison Cole, Kade said, the name tasting like poison. His former partner, the man who'd sold out their research to the military-industrial complex. I should have killed him when I had the chance. He's not just using your old research. He's improving it. The memory extraction process here is more elegant than anything in the classified files. Someone's been developing your work, making it more efficient, more invasive. Someone with intimate knowledge of your original designs. The implications hit Kade like a neural feedback loop. He has one of my former team members. Someone who survived the purge. Or someone who never left his employment. Vega pulled out a tablet, showing him surveillance footage from the Academy's restricted levels. Dr. Lisa Park. Does the name ring a bell? Kade's world tilted sideways. Lisa had been his star student, the most promising neurotechnology researcher of her generation. She'd also been the woman he'd planned to marry before the Memory Weavers program destroyed both their lives. She's supposed to be dead, he said, voice hollow. Car accident. I went to her funeral. Closed casket, I'm guessing. Very convenient. Vega swiped to another image, showing a woman in a lab coat calibrating neural interfaces. Older, scarred, but unmistakably Lisa. She's been here for 6 months, overseeing the memory extraction protocols. Using techniques that are definitely not in the public research literature. The betrayal cut deeper than Kade had thought possible. Lisa hadn't just survived, she'd joined the enemy. She was here, in this building, helping to violate the minds of innocent students using research they'd developed together. I need to see her, he said. Bad idea. She'll recognize you immediately, blow your cover, and then we lose any chance of stopping this. My cover's already blown. You made sure of that. Kade touched his neck, where the tattoo still tingled with residual energy. Besides, I know Lisa. If she's doing this, there's a reason. She wouldn't just sell out for money or power. People change, Kade. Especially when they're threatened. Not Lisa. She's here under duress, or she's been compromised somehow. Either way, she's the key to understanding what they're really building. Vega studied him for a long moment. You still care about her. I care about stopping this. Lisa's just the most efficient way to do it. It was a lie, and they both knew it. But Vega nodded anyway, understanding the kinds of compromises that necessity demanded. The advanced labs are on sublevel 3, she said. Lisa works the night shift, alone. If you're going to confront her, now's the time. Kade stripped off his janitor's uniform, revealing the tactical clothing he'd worn underneath, old habits from a life when people tried to kill him regularly. The transformation was more than physical. With each piece of his disguise that fell away, Dr. Kade Thorne emerged from the shadow of Cade Morrison. One question, he said as they prepared to descend into the restricted levels. Why are you helping me? What's your stake in this? Vega's smile was sharp as broken glass. Because they took my daughter. Emma Nakamura. She doesn't know I'm her mother. I gave her up for adoption to keep her safe from my work in military intelligence. But I've been watching over her from a distance. When I learned what this place was really doing to her. You went undercover to stop it. I went undercover to burn it down. But I need your expertise to do it without destroying the evidence we'll need to expose the whole network. Kade nodded, understanding the depth of her commitment. A mother's love was a force more dangerous than any weapon he'd ever designed. They descended into the depths of the academy, where the real work was done. Where memories were stolen and sold, where the future of human consciousness was being decided by men who saw minds as nothing more than exploitable resources. Where Lisa was waiting, whether she knew it or not. The elevator doors opened onto a corridor lined with neural processing units, their quantum cores humming with the stolen thoughts of sleeping students. At the far end, through a reinforced window, Kade could see her. Lisa Park. The woman he'd loved. The partner he'd trusted with his life's work. The ghost who'd haunted his exile. She looked up as they approached, and her face went white with shock. Even through the glass, even after all these years, he could read her expression perfectly. She wasn't surprised to see him alive. She was terrified that he'd finally found her. Which meant Vega was wrong about one thing. Lisa wasn't here under duress. She was here because she'd chosen to be. Because somewhere in the wreckage of their shared past, she'd decided that his vision of healing minds was less important than someone else's vision of controlling them. The confrontation he dreaded for 3 years was finally here. And this time, there would be no running from the truth.